Thank you for joining us again on the program. And be reminded that our broadcast is coming to you in English and in French. For those on the CanalSat network, you can change the settings to your preferred language using the blue button on your remote control. Now we begin. 21.7 million out of a total of 36.9 million are taking antiretroviral therapy, the highest proportion ever, according to a UNAIDS report released on Wednesday. This is remarkable progress, but it's not hooray yet. This is what the United Nations says. The UN has warned new HIV infections are rising in around 50 countries and AIDS-related deaths are not falling fast enough. The Joint United Nations Programme on HIV and AIDS, UNAIDS, in the report warned that the global response to HIV is at a precarious point. It blames the decline on flat or dwindling resources. At the halfway point to the 2020 targets, the report, miles to go, closing gaps, breaking barriers, and righting injustices, warns that the pace of progress is not matching global ambition. UNAIDS called for immediate action to put the world on course to reach critical 2020 targets.
And despite some encouraging advances, this virus for which there is no vaccine is still killing a lot of people. And we give you some figures provided by the WHO. Today, 37 million people worldwide are living with HIV or AIDS. Almost 2 million cases are reported each year, and this disease has killed 35.
Share some more insight on the situation is Dr. Pascal Barani, the director of UNAIDS Congo, based in Brazzaville. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Pascal. The new UNAIDS report released on Wednesday indicates that nearly 3 out of 5 HIV-positive people in the world now have access to HIV treatment, the highest proportion ever. And it also issues some warnings, Dr. Pascal.
Progress is caused by a number of factors. First, there's political commitment in the countries most affected by the epidemic. I'll mention here the case of Eastern and Southern African countries, for example, where access to treatment has greatly increased. Since it is the region most affected by the epidemic throughout the world. And so precisely in these countries, there has been a significant decrease in new HIV infections.
Dr. Pascal, Africa is the continent with the continent most affected by AIDS. What are the statistics on the progress recorded in Africa so far?
On this issue, it's access to treatment. There are countries that have made enormous progress. This is the case in Eastern and Southern Africa, where new infections have declined by about 30% since 2010. So there's a significant decline, and that's because of access to treatment.
Depuis 2010, donc il y a une baisse sensible, et cela grâce à l'accès au traitement. Parce que l'accès au traitement constitue aussi une mesure de prévention.
Because access to treatment is also a preventative measure.
Parce que seulement 26% des enfants et 41% des adultes.
While in West and Central Africa, progress is slow because only 26% of children and 41% of adults had access to antiretroviral treatment by the end of 2017, compared to 59% of children and 66% of adults in Eastern and Southern Africa.
Mentionner le fait que les décès aussi liés au sida
And so since 2010, roughly speaking, we can mention the fact that AIDS-related deaths have only decreased by 24% in West and Central Africa compared to 42%.
Taking all of this into consideration and into cognizance, what needs to be done now so that this progress does not stop?
To ensure that this progress does not stop, there is a whole mosaic of interventions that must be put in place. These interventions focus primarily on political leadership. In countries that are lagging behind today, HIV/AIDS should remain a high development priority, and the necessary investments should be made to ensure access to treatment is something very, very important.
pour permettre l'accès au traitement. C'est quelque chose de très, très important. Il faudrait justement
structures, means, and resources should be put in place to enable people to be tested and to know their HIV status. It is only under these conditions that these people will be able to go get treatment. The second thing we should do is deploy what is called combination prevention. In other words, the UN's objective is precisely to stop new infections and to stop these new developments and to stop themselves from having access to treatment. The last thing we need to do is address the issue of social injustice. The fight against AIDS is first of all and foremost a social movement, a movement of social transformation, a movement that ultimately aims to correct inequalities, but this requires a sustained commitment from public authorities, but also broad cooperation between health structures and civil society organizations so that they provide services that are better adapted to communities.
Well, Dr. Pascal, this is how much we can take, and so we will have to leave it here. Thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Dr. Pascal Barani, the director of UNAIDS Congo, speaking to us there on the remarkable progress made in HIV/AIDS treatment.